sampa ukanwa he istaja jan itiape. Ahan ukanwa he se wa sichuna itiape. Atewa he haka chui maza itiape. Ahan mish Wanbdi Wakita imakiape. Damakota wipazo kawakpa taha wahi. Ungeche wichoega masipi. Oeche ichinchandi makupi naka. Yokpia. Dako waste obdakikta. Wachami. Oheo oderohi. My name is Wanbdi Wakita. What I said was my great-grandfather, his name is Shining Eyes, and my grandfather's name is Bear Paw, and my dad's name is Elk Ironsides, and my name is Wanbdi Wakita, Looking Eagle. And what I said is I am Dakota, and I come from Wipazokawakpa, Saskatoon River, the original name. So I grew up on a farm, a small farm, where my grandfather and my dad and us boys were part of that farm, and really a lot of good experience. Really appreciated that upbringing. It taught us lots of things, and along with that, my conchie and my mom, they served lots of good food, which kept us healthy, and we eat natural foods, which is pretty good. Long ago, our people, the old people, told us we come from the Blue Star people, and that has a lot of meaning. Creator put us on this earth, and we got to believe that because there was lots of indicators about sacredness. So we begin to believe those things, the old stories, the history, the true stories of long ago. They're still being told today. And so there are many different stories that our people shared. And some of it came out as history. Some of them came out as part of the culture, which is language and songs and ceremonies, those kinds of things. And long ago, different people, Creator gave different people visions and dreams. And the one example was that old man, his name was Joe. I forget his real name, but he had a dream one time, and his dream was about building a drum, making a drum, and he was a really good singer. So he went out in the bush and he cut this big tree that's already laying down. And of course everything was done by hand in those days. This was in the 1900s. And so, early 1900s. So there's a handsaw that he used, those big long hand saws. He cut a drum cylinder. He hollowed it out, just like his dream. The other part was he went out hunting, and he got the kind of hide that that he seen in a dream, which was elk hide, a haka. And so when it was ready, it takes quite a while to make a drum. He worked on this hide, and he put the hide on this drum cylinder. A couple of years later, when there was a gathering in our community, he brought this drum. And even though he was kind of shy, he stood up and he said, I had a dream a couple of years, about 2 years ago, he said, and the dream was to make a drum. And it took me a couple of years to make it, but here's the drum. And there must be a reason why I got this drum, and that is for me to use my voice, to share my voice with the community. And I'm thankful that I have that kind of a dream, he said. And then he sat down and he started to sing a song. In a very short while, another guy came. Another guy came, they started singing. Another guy came, they started singing. Another guy came. There were 6 of them at the drum. They were singing. And they every time that the gathering, they started to sing these songs that happened a long time ago. And some of those songs, they had words in it. And so things worked out good because that dream came from up there and gave that old man the authorization to build a drum and share his voice with the community. I see that with the women too. You're asking about this star blanket. That's exactly the same thing. There's many stories about star blanket. In fact, many stories about the star people, the blue star people. And one time that there was a woman who had a vision about the star. And so she used that name, Star Woman, to use that name to be given to her oldest daughter. And because she had a vision, a dream, a vision was given to him from the holy place, that daughter started to make that vision by sewing cloth. At that time, she started, of course, with rawhide, deer hide. That's what she used to make the drawing of the vision that she had. That woman lived for a long time. I think she was about 105 or something like that. And then she went home. From then on, people started to take on that vision that she had and carried it on. And those women that got together to do that, they had a society. It's called the Scalp Dance Society, where they gathered every once in a while to make blankets. And this is how it turned out. They made it star blanket, different kinds, different designs, but always the design of the star. And they started off with the color blue, which is the dream of that vision of that woman. But later on, of course, the women they're so good at sewing. They started to use cloth, and they made different colors and different designs about the star. So that's how that star blanket came into effect. they, you know, the societies we have back at home in my community, they had a Eagle Society run by my kunshi, and Omaha Society run by a group of men. And so that Scalp Dance Society, they carried on for a long time. And what they did was they made star blankets and they sewed them. Every afternoon, on Thursday afternoon, they would go. And I remember that because my mom used to be one of those ladies who used to sew star blankets. And what they would do after they're finished in the fall time, that they would take these blankets and give it to the ones who needed blankets, mostly the old people and mostly the ladies who had lots of kids, or the ladies who are without husbands, the ones who are needy. They needed help. So that's how that Scalp Dance Society ran. And if somebody in that group got sick, they would go and help her. Somebody got wood for them. Somebody went and got some meat for them. That's how things were at that time, and it carried on until today. And uh, the women are so talented. The that one woman wasn't the only woman who had dreams and visions about the star blanket. There are many different uh, women who had dreams about uh, the star and the star blanket, or the star made into something, whether it's put on a dance outfit or whether it's put on a design, and they use that vision that way to make that whatever it is that they're making. There's something called an honoring, and there's many kinds of honoring. I'll start with when Creator takes people home to the spirit world. The people start to put star blankets on top of where that man or that woman is laying. That is just the body is there. The spirit already went home, and they use that because that's exactly what happened. That's how we were born, by that blue star. And then when we're finished, we go back to the blue star again. That's where that's some people call it heaven. We call it Tatemakochi, the windy place, and that they went back there and they used that symbol, that star blanket symbol, to put on that person, so they can travel good way home, warm and secure. And not see, a blanket is not just a blanket. People used to do the same thing as what your granny was doing, where they honored people. They see somebody doing really good, and so the family decides we're going to put a blanket around that lady. And they went over and they put a blanket around her. They gave her something to eat, and they told why they honored her with a blanket. It's the security of the blanket, it's the safety, the warmth, and the star of the symbol of that star is a reminder of Creator putting us on earth, Creator taking us back to the stars. And the other way was when uh, every 6 months there's something called a mourners gathering, where people who lost their loved ones, some people call them together, and they come to the center, and they feed them. The elders speak, and they talk about where their relatives have gone up there in the spirit world, and that they have an opportunity to keep their spirit for 1 year keeping the spirit ceremony, and then after 1 year, releasing the spirit after that. And when those mourners, they they symbolically wiped their tears after the 6 months. They had that whole time to grieve during that time, and so and then they give them water to drink, and then they feed them, and then they put a blanket around them, and then they go back to their homes that way. That was another way that the people used to do that. Some of those things they're carrying on. They're still carrying on. The people who know about these things, they're still carrying them on. And there's always star blankets around. Lots of star blankets. You go to my community and there'll be like 50 of those star blankets. If anybody wanted them, they'll be there. And they're nice and fancy too. Some of them are satin and really colorful, just really nice. So that's kind of how they they use when the young kids are born. They give a blanket, and it's usually a star blanket. You wrap them up, and they're little, and then they grow up to be about 3 or 4, and the blanket, that little kid is always dragging that blanket around wherever they go, and sometimes it's tattered and torn, and the women have to sew it up. And I remember our daughter one time, she went somewhere. Oh boy, this is the time we better sew up her blanket because it's all torn. And our daughter, she called that blanket my cold blanket. That's what she called it. And so one time she went somewhere, and some people took her somewhere, and they came home early. And here her grandma was sewing up that blanket. And she noticed right away, Koshi, put my blanket right back right away. She said she didn't like it. Somebody was trying to do something with her blanket. She was only trying to help sew that. But the babies get wrapped up with we done that with our couple of our kids, the grandsons, granddaughters that are born. They wrapped them up, and that's how they received them. They give them a little blanket. Not the full blanket, the smaller ones like these ones here. That's how they use them. I also seen those blankets for those people who are authorized or qualified to have something to do with the stars, or if their name has something to do with a star, like that old man Star at home. His name is, well, they gave him the name John Star. He was a good old man, and his name is Star. So these are as an altar for his ceremonial pipe. They made a little star blanket, and he put his pipe on there, and that's what he used to use. The other thing too is for those people who are given a vision to be able to connect with the stars, they somehow get this powder. They say that come from the stars. I heard 2 people saying that this powder come from up there from the stars, because we know that those stars are rock up there. That's what they are, and the sun shines in them, and so that's kind of and there's lots of stories. One example was the seven stars, and there's stories about that. And the story is in this particular one. There's many stories, but in this one particular one that I remember that happened a long time ago. There's 2 young girls sitting on the side of the hill, not far, not on the top, just on the side of the hill, and they were talking. And beautiful night out there looking up, and one of those young girls, she said, "I would marry that star." And the other girl said, "I want to marry that star." and uh, and they're ready to come back down here. So they're coming slowly, walking back towards the camp. And all of a sudden, there's two young men coming up to meet them. And those young men, they came to those two women, two girls, and they said, "We heard you talking. We heard that you wanted to marry us. So we're here. We agree. We'll marry you." And away they went. They took them back to the stars. And they lived, all their needs were met up there. They lived really good. But this one young girl, oh boy, she was just lonesome for her family. The one thing they couldn't do was to pick turnips, the wild turnips. They couldn't. For some reason, they were not allowed to pick turnips. But this young girl, she really was missing that wild turnip soup. So she goes for a walk on the side of the hill, and she picks this one turnip. Oh boy, what a lovely plant. She smells the plant and that wild turnip. It looks so nice. And she picked it, and she looked through that ground where she picked it, and way down there she sees her grandma and her sister down there in that camp. Oh, she really missed that. So she decides, oh, they're not going to miss this one turnip. I'll just... So she pulled it, and that's where that hole came from. And she sees her family down there. So she was so lonesome, she picked a whole bunch and she braided them together, and she put it through that hole. It went all the way down. She secured this wild turnip braid, and she started to climb down there. Just as she got close to home, that thing broke and she fell down, and she got killed. But she was with child, so the animals came, the coyotes, the wolves, even the magpies and the meadowlark. They came and they rescued this young man that was inside her, and they raised him up. Boy, this young man grew up really fast, and because he was this young man was raised by the animals and the birds, he grew up to be quite a natural person, a regular natural person, who was very got the sacredness from the animals, and he was looked after, given direction from up there. He soon became a man that's known to go to people or to camps and give good direction, good information that is from up there. And so that's what he done. He went from camp to camp. He went to this one camp, and oh, those people were in despair. So they told him, the camp people, they told this young man, "We're in great despair," he said. "There's this big, ugly red bird that comes from the mountains, and every once in a while he takes one of our girls and he takes them home to the mountains and eats them over there. And we tried and tried to capture him and kill him, but he's still continuing." That's what we would like, the camp people told this young man. So the young man says, "Well, I'll see." And away he went. Sure enough, he got a hold of that big red bird and he killed him. So he went back to the camp, and he told these people, I killed that ugly red bird for you. And but there's something that you have to do. The young girls, the young people are no longer to be out by themselves in a dark. They have to stay inside so that these kinds of things will not happen again. That's the one thing that the young people are to do, to stay inside. And in memory, he told them, look up in the sky. There are four stars, and then there's three bright stars right in the middle of that. Those are those seven girls up there as a memory. They went back to the star people. That's where they went back to. And that's how those things started with the star blanket and many different kinds of stories like that. So that's what I remember the old people telling me about those kinds of stories, and still carry on today. They tell those young kids, don't go outside after dark, you know, or the ugly red bird might come and get you, you know, which is a true story that happened long ago.